Ukraine, glory to heroes. Dear Ukrainians, I have the honor of telling you about the Territorial Defense Forces. We have already been 3 months old. Over this time, more than 110,000 people, males and females, our patriots, have joined the Territorial Defense. Also, we have created more than 450 volunteer formations in territorial communities. We would like to thank you for your efforts, for your courage, for your commitment. We are the youngest type of forces. One day before the invasion, we had just 6,000 professional servicemen and a small number of reservists. But as soon as on the 24th of February, our hotline was receiving lots of calls with one question: how to join the Territorial Defense? And all across Ukraine, there were lines of people, 1 kilometer and more, waiting to join it. People of various professions, different ages, different religions wanted to defend Ukraine. I personally saw those kilometer-long lines in Kyiv. People who were joining the Territorial Defense brigades in the city of Kyiv, and neither air alerts nor rocket strikes would force them to go to shelters. I personally saw how several hundreds of civilians approached the commanders of Territorial Defense. They self-organized and started helping our military in our headquarters to prepare residential blocks and quarters in Kyiv for street fighting. Those people personally, in their civilian clothes, joined efforts with the military. They were training how to use the weapons. I even have one example where one person with an expensive leather bag, looking absolutely civilian in glasses, was standing next to the military, learning how to use NLO anti-tank missile. Our units have been fighting Russian occupiers. The Territorial Defense has personalized the Ukrainian resistance. This is a phenomenon Ukrainian invaders definitely did not expect. They did not expect that the whole Ukraine will resist, that even that tractor, farm tractor, will become a strong weapon in Ukrainians' hands. Day to day, our units become stronger. Our commanders use every minute to train their personnel if the situation allows. And to do that, we engage instructors, including foreign instructors from abroad. We train our servicemen and women under different professions, for tanks, for air defense systems, UAV operators, and snipers, marksmen. We have all the necessary weapons, including weapons provided by our foreign partners. You have all seen those pictures distributed worldwide, how our heroes bravely destroy expensive enemies' expensive gear, forcing the enemy to flee. Our units defend strategic facilities and implement tasks jointly with people from other forces of Ukrainian armed forces. They control the movement of people and vehicles all over Ukraine. We are fighting sabotage groups and effectively destroy Russians all across Ukraine with their equipment, with their vehicles. It happened also in Kyiv, in Kharkiv, in Melitopol, in Chernihiv, in Sumy, everywhere where we had or have the enemy. Especially brave units are those from Donetsk Brigade of Territorial Defense and Mariupol Battalion of Territorial Defense. Jointly with National Guard and Marines, they defend Mariupol. The personnel of those units serve our people, serve our country. They have been defending our country, heroically defending it. Every day they heroically resist the occupiers, the invaders. The same story in Sumy, where the commander of the Territorial Defense Brigade with his units interoperates with other units, other components of defense forces, and they prevented the enemy from entering the city of Sumy. And they have been fighting. They took some, they got some vehicles from Russian units. They were bravely defending Sumy. They haven't left it, and now they're there in Sumy restoring their battle capacity. We know about the difficulties for our units. It's about supply of protective gear, accounting, payouts, and we make every effort to improve the situation as soon as possible. Thank you for understanding, and thank you for your commitment. Wartime is difficult time. When developing territorial defense, we are getting unique experience. This is the very first time time for us, and we do it jointly with you. And this way, there are a lot of things we were not prepared for. But time has been changing us and joining us together. We are learning, we are becoming stronger. Many thanks to brave Ukrainian males and females defending their country. Many thanks to our civilians who remain strong support for our units. We will definitely see our victory and will completely defeat the invaders. But to achieve that, all of us have to work a lot. There is no other way to get there. The slogan of territorial defense is this: defend your home, defend Ukraine. Now our home is the whole Ukraine. And everybody, all of us should be ready to carry out our tasks all over Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine. And eternal memory, we'll always remember heroes who gave their lives defending the truth for our victory. Thank you, Yuriy. Is our understanding correct that in each and every unit of territorial defense, there are staff military servicemen who become the main, they develop and train those units? Well, the territorial defense forces are the youngest type of forces in Ukrainian armed forces. Unfortunately, the share of staff military in the territorial defense is the lowest across armed forces, but still in each and every battalion, in each and every brigade, there is a sufficient number of staff officers who make those units manageable and train them for them to be able to implement their tasks as soon as possible. And those units which have been already fighting and carrying out combat tasks, they have been decently implementing them. Thank you, Andrei. Andrei, I would like to ask Lviv, can you hear us? Thank you, Olga. Yes, I will announce one question we keep hearing from foreign journalists accredited here in Lviv. Dear Brigadier General, to which extent is our territorial defense is about implementing recommendations from our NATO partners, and to which extent that's just Ukrainian know-how? And maybe to put this question in an even broader sense, are there any lessons we will be able to share with our NATO partners and our allies in the free world? Of course, when we were developing that law on the foundations of the national resistance, there have been many institutions working on that law, and we were using the experience of our partners, other countries, including those NATO members. And taking that into account, we were developing our territorial defense forces. But what has happened during this month and a half is about some unique experience which no one country worldwide has got. I'm sure that our experience will be used worldwide. That's what nobody ever did. Namely, we have managed in a short time frame to mobilize more than 110,000 people and to bring them into the ranks of territorial defense. We have managed to mobilize people right there in territorial defense units. Within the shortest time frame, we have provided them with weapons and we started training them for combat tasks. And in some oblasts, those units just got weapons and they went fighting in their jeans and their training shoes. They went to defend and defend our independence. I am sure that no one country worldwide has this sort of unique experience. When we were creating volunteer units, immediately those volunteer units of territorial communities, and they received their weapons and immediately stood next to units of Ukrainian armed forces defending our motherland. No one has this experience, how those volunteer formations would implement their tasks, not just defending their territorial communities, but destroying the enemy right there in the battlefield. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We have questions here in our studio. Please speak into the microphone. Thank you. I'm Tatiana Popova from Islandia TV channel. How will territorial defense operate in the nearest future? Will it be partially discharged, or will there be contracts with armed forces or move to the east, and whether we'll have fewer checkpoints in Kyiv and Kyiv Oblast? Thank you for your question. First of all, now we are only thinking about our victory and about defeating the Russian occupiers and restoring our territorial integrity. We are not talking about any discharging of territorial defense or reforming them. No, that's not a relevant issue. Territorial defense forces gain their capacity and should be able to implement their tasks all over Ukraine jointly with the ground forces or other types of forces. This is one and most important task, irrespective of in which oblast they have been created, those units. And that's what's already been happening. Also, our main task is now, currently, is to develop our capacity, our skills, to master the weapons and gear provided by our partners, to increase our mobility. About checkpoints in the city of Kyiv, of course, as of now, some checkpoints, some roadblocks will have to be removed, but that's a question which is with the competence of the commander of defense of Kyiv. One more question is about the journalists' work. I travel a lot myself and with foreign journalists around Kyiv Oblast, and in my press card from Ukrainian Armed Forces, all of us received it, and it says that we can travel during the curfew, but unfortunately not all representatives of territorial defense are aware of it. They keep asking about some passphrases or something, and you know, in the center of Kyiv, French journalists accompanied by me were asked to show their armored helmets and bulletproof vests. When will there be a single procedure what the territorial defense should be entitled to check with journalists and when they should be allowed? You know, safety should always be there. This is one thing. Second, there is an order of the Chief of General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine about facilitating the journalists' work, including foreign journalists, and all units of the Territorial Defense Forces have received this order, these instructions, and we try to comply with it. Also, I'd like to mention that even though everybody has been trying to call themselves territorial defense, there are also so-called volunteer formations of territorial communities, and they are also present at those checkpoints. Now we are jointly with the head of Kyiv City Military and Civil Administration and with Kyiv Oblast Civil Military Administration, we have been working on bringing those activities of volunteer formations of territorial communities into order. And those units of volunteer formations who do not implement combat tasks, where they don't need weapons, they will prepare the locations to keep those weapons, and they will only receive weapons for combat tasks. Those checkpoints located in Kyiv, which are not stipulated in the order of the commander of territorial defense in Kyiv, will be removed. It will make it much easier for journalists to travel. Thank you, Yuriy. And you notice that we have seen lines of people waiting in many cities and towns and territorial communities, people who wanted to join the territorial defense. I know that there are also such people even now. Do you still accept people? Even though a lot of people, as I already said, like thousands of servicemen are already there in territorial defense, there is still a need for people. There is sufficient need for people. not all brigades of territorial defense have managed to mobilize to the full extent in time. Now we have done something in Kherson brigade. They did not manage to mobilize in time in city of Kherson because Kherson got occupied by invaders. So we did it in Kirovograd province and Zaporizhia province, Zaporizhia Oblast. Now they are implementing their tasks in the full number of people, and we'll do it in other oblasts. There's still a need. Thank you. Great. Andrei, do you have any other questions there? And maybe one more question is, dear Brigadier General, how would you assess the evolution from inside, the evolution of those people who joined you in the last weeks or months? What has changed in those people? How do you see any change? We have heard about the numbers, but what has changed in terms of qualities of those people? Well, generally, territorial defense is about people. Each and every case is unique. I am proud of Ukrainians. Every day, I got some emotional energy, some emotional strength. I see how those people transform with completely civilian people into professional military. They now understand how to use their weapons. They can use them. I even launched a project, and there were several journalists who joined it, several people from the media. They travel all over Ukraine, and by the way, they invite also foreign journalists, and we use examples of lay people. We tell about their stories, about their heroic deeds. Also, people who used to be just lay civilians, now they have become professional servicemen and servicewomen. They have received some awards, and more than 100 people from Territorial Defense Forces have been awarded by decrees of the President of Ukraine with national awards. I can tell you about one case where there was a lieutenant, a battalion commander, a Territorial Defense battalion commander, Lieutenant Pushkarev, bravely defended outskirts of Kyiv. Those people destroyed a lot of equipment of the enemy. They captured a lot of Russian prisoners of war. They captured a lot of their vehicles, their gear, and he became senior lieutenant. And when I asked that officer how to award you and your unit for what you have done, he said, "I want to become a captain." You know, that's an example. And I assigned him this captain rank, and for him it was better than any other award, because for them the main thing is to defend their country. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this inspiring story. Are there any more questions, dear friends? There are no more questions. Yuriy, I'd like to thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing this very important information. Dear friends, please stay with us. I'd like to remind you that at 3:30 there will be a briefing by a spokesperson of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, Alexander Matuzyanik, who will tell us about the current operational situation on the front lines. Thank